Hi, my name is Louise.
And hi, I'm Emma.
And you're listening to Murder or Myth,
the true crime podcast where not everything is true.
The aim of the game is to find out whether the story is actually a murder or if it's just a myth.
Now, let's get started.
So if you listened to last week's episode, we're doing a little bit of Murder or Myth 1 year later.
Nice title. Good title.
We're reviewing, listening to Emma's second myth this time. Mm-hmm. Ontario's Nightclub 77.
Episode 10?
Episode 10, yeah. That was late in the game for you to be having your second myth.
Yeah, are we sure?
I think so, yeah.
You see, I base them off every time we record a set. I'll have so like one day I might have
there was
done
only
two
two sets
murders,
within that.
like, yeah, so I used to hate them, so I would
Just
do like
the
minimal. The middle
and
of that.
do the minimum, yeah, fair. Okay, I'm excited. Will we get listening?
Press play.
Yeah, whether the story is actually a murder or if it's just a myth.
Now, let's get started. So, hi Louise.
Hi Emma, how are you?
I'm good now, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to hear this week's episode. You're going to be telling me a murder story?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the murder story.
I hate how that sounds.
It's so fun.
We already listened to this first clip off camera and decided that I sound like I'm talking to a child.
I was just going along with it. It's called The Murder of Stephanie Orwell. This murder begins in Ontario, Canada, 1980. So it's like May 19th. In a pub called the West End Bar. A woman called Stephanie Orwell was out for the night with a group of about...
So is there like actually a West End bar in...
Yes.
Okay. So no, I wouldn't do that.
All the details regarding Ontario are
true.
mapped out and true. Like the place that he left her at, like
that's
all
interesting.
This stuff. Like everything is
like I would do some of them.
checked.
Like if I'm saying something's in like Los Angeles or something, and I know you're gonna know. Like I would say Tampa or something, or like
Tampa's in Florida.
Tampa's in Florida.
You should for sure do that next time. I'll definitely not remember.
If I was saying something was in Florida, I might say Tampa just to like lock in the location, factual element a bit more. But if I didn't think you would know, I would just make it up.
Smart. Entry from her local lacrosse team
smart, just
after
fun.
their win in the Division 3 league, promoting them to Division 2. So they're like, they're celebrating, out for a good time. So everyone is having a great time, the drinks are flowing, so the ones that are out for the night move on to a nightclub nearest the pub called 77, so that's the name of the nightclub. There's a solid group of about 10 of the team made it to the nightclub, and they get taxis from the bar to the club, party the night away. Stephanie is 27 and she's seen...
I like the party the night away. Someone was telling me about the podcast the other day and they said that they thought that when we used more descriptive language, we... and I was like, for sure we've already spoken about this on the podcast, maybe if you listened to more episodes, but I think we have. But yeah, they said when we used descriptive language, they could tell it was a myth.
Yeah, because...
Partying the night away is giving me like slightly descriptive language.
So true, so fair. But like when it's a factual murder, we don't just be like, we can't just speculate they party the night away.
Yeah.
It's like I was told that they were at this bar and this whatever from my research.
It's all... I don't know what I was going to say there. It's all just like... there's nothing subjective.
Yeah,
I guess in it. I don't remember if I got this right or not. Do you know if I guessed it?
I think you guessed it. A myth, yeah.
Really?
Dancing with a tall, dark-haired man. At the end of the night, Stephanie chats to her teammates and lets them know she's going home with the man who she lets them know is John.
In the 1980s, going home with a man sounds kind of scandalous.
Oh, I remember this now.
But
it's like progressive 1980s.
I totally forgot about this.
Oh yeah, do you not know now what happens? Okay.
I do, there's a detail.
The detail that you...
I caught onto,
yes.
Yeah. Because you changed the story, didn't you, at the timeline? Yeah.
Maybe not. I feel like she might get murdered.
Yeah, I feel like it's not going to be too good. Okay, at the end of the night, she's told her teammates she's leaving with this man named John. Smart move, because she thinks she's in the clear because everyone...
Smart move.
Descriptive language. Tick.
The quality's good.
I think the quality's good,
yeah. Yeah, it is.
Seen him, bartenders, people around, eyewitnesses, etc. So, all good. No, wrong. So, unfortunately, this is
went off script completely.
The last person to see her was the taxi man they got home with. So, she gets in a taxi with John and the taxi man, and that is the last time Stephanie Orwell was seen alive.
Did the taxi man, give an account of John?
Yeah, but I'll get to that now in a minute, but he did, yes. Okay. Of course. he was tracked down. So a week later, a body is discovered by a teenager walking their dog at the local nature reserve named Dundas Valley.
That's a real
Body is found
place.
That's
in
crazy.
some brush.
See, like, I would never know either way.
The contents in the bag included
That
some
seems so,
makeup,
like, wrong.
her keys, her wallet, her mobile phone.
And lying.
So it appeared like it wasn't. Nothing was out of the ordinary. It wasn't a robbery.
Oh, I'm about to say it.
It wasn't.
I feel like mobile phones were really super common in 1980, were they?
Well, no, like it wouldn't have been. Everyone wouldn't have had them, but like Stephanie was of a wealthy family, so.
Yeah, I just pulled that out of
Okay.
the bag, like.
So, yeah, it wasn't a robbing or an assault or like a mugging for her personal belongings.
How would
So-
you have known that those Stephanies were a wealthy family as well?
I just had to, like, you were dissing my phone here.
When did phones become common? Like, it was definitely
think
like
it
the
was the late
2000s, was
90s,
it? Or late 90s, okay, yeah.
Clearly, the death was treated as suspicious. The police quickly connected the body to that of the recent missing Stephanie, and they start their investigation, retracing all the people who were at the two bars and the taxi man. So the post-mortem was done, and the cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation compounded by blunt force trauma.
I don't know what asphyxiation is.
Like strangling, but like not necessarily strangling. Like
That would have made me think it's a murder, that you knew that.
That I knew what asphyxiation was?
No, not that you knew, but that just you included it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
you just couldn't get
Oh,
air
like,
to her airways.
couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
basically. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's how you say it. Couldn't breathe.
Air not going to the
No,
airways.
yeah.
Why did I say it like
Told by the
that?
medical examiner
It's horrific.
that whoever killed Stephanie had knocked her out and then sometime after like smothered her.
Okay.
Okay, because it wasn't like pure strangulation,
Okay.
it was just smothering. Also, there was evidence of sexual assault, but it could not be determined if it occurred before or after the murder. They found fibres in her lungs from the item that was used in her suffocation.
This was
and
good.
There was DNA on her body that wasn't hers.
So, like,
also.
if I just didn't fuck up the phone
Yeah, the
detail-
fibres in the lungs for sure. I'm sure I even mentioned this at the end, that the
Yeah.
fibres in the lungs are good.
DNA evidence and fibres, and they're collected. and
Like, I would
tested
never
to
think
kill
of
her.
that.
So now they have
Yeah.
evidence to begin working off. The fibres need to be tested to check their material and link.
But
to
I
the
don't know
item
much
at
true
the
crime.
time.
Like, I feel
you know,
like-
if they got a suspect, they
I've
That
not
is a
heard
common thing
too
you'd
much
say,
of that.
yeah.
yeah, if you
If they had that
They-
item,
yeah,
he or
they-
she, we don't know.
correct, if an item matches the material found in the fibres. So they decide to do that. They're taking up all their options, DNA, fibres, and then they go to eyewitnesses.
The taking
All
of all their
accounts and
options
witnesses
is
pointed
a
to the
funny
man
way to put it
named
as well.
The bar staff and her
I didn't write it
teammates
down, like, I'm not
recounted the
prepared to say
description,
it, so I could say anything.
of the man at the night, and they all gave similar descriptions. So, you know, sketches are drawn, good details are gotten. So we move on. Lost my place again. The taxi man who picked up the two that night was brought in for questioning. He cooperated and gave the police the address he drove to the night of Stephanie's last known whereabouts. He added that nothing seemed out of the ordinary and Steffi seemed at ease and wasn't taken against her will.
Okay.
Okay, so that was good basis to go off. So the police have a suspect and an address, so that's where she got dropped off with John. So they go to the house on Oakley Court, just 15 kilometres from the club and 7 from where the body was found. So a little sus.
I love this, very close.
Yeah. So there they meet 33-year-old John Campbell. He agrees to go with police for questioning and by all accounts is very cooperative with the police and polite. So, seemingly like a sound guy, but we'll have to wait and see. John undergoes questioning
Again,
and
with the
polygraph
descriptions
tests.
that are
He says
unnecessary.
he searched for items to match the fibres. He
We
passed
definitely told the stories in a different way, I feel. Like, the way you said seemingly a sound guy. Like, we were definitely, like,
More conversationally, kind of.
more conversation, but we're also really, like, examining the story itself. Not that I feel like now we're
Yeah.
very, like, murder or myth. But whereas here we were, like, yeah, like you said, trying to figure out who the murder was, or who the criminal was and stuff.
Yeah, very much
Like,
so.
I don't think we do that anymore.
Now we're just like, would you write this?
Yeah.
the test and tells police his version of the story, which was that he and Stephanie went back to his house, where Stephanie had a couple more drinks and they hung out for a good while until Stephanie requested to go home. He said he decided to drop her home himself as he hadn't drunk in a while and was too late for any taxis to be out. Due to the early morning hours, no witnesses came forward to say that they had seen John's car driving around, or no one in Stephanie's apartment block came forward to corroborate John's story that he had watched her enter the building.
Okay.
So it's like early morning, perfect for no witnesses.
Am I
to
saying
be
now
out
that
about.
there was
So
no
all the
taxi
evidence
driver?
they have on the case now.
No, you said that the taxi dropped them from the club to the house. Are you not even following your own story?
Yeah, but then he said
And
that
then-
it was too early.
And
too
then
late.
John dropped her back home in the early morning. Like,
Yes, I see
they spent
that.
a few hours together.
There was two different places.
Yeah.
Is the DNA collected from the scene and the fibres that were collected from her lungs.
Is
There
there
was
any?
no...
Is there any proof that Stephanie returned to her apartment?
No, there was like no witnesses to...
Nothing like within the apartment, like that could give. Did she live alone?
Yeah, in her apartment, but like in an apartment block where others would be. But she left alone in an apartment.
Okay, I'm just trying to think. Like, would there be anything that would make
Just
it obvious?
explaining
But I guess
apartment
not.
blocks to you.
Yeah, so I don't know what they are.
Been like, could she have left something there from the nightclub? Like after she came back, would she have left something there just to show that like after the night out she returned to her apartment? That would.
Yeah, like surely she would have changed clothes or something.
Yeah, or left a bag or something down.
Yeah, she wouldn't have brought the exact same items with her going on a hike. Is that where she's about to go? Is that what he said? Or is that what the story explains? I'm not remembering.
No, that
but-
she just disappeared, I think, after.
Okay. I feel like still if she got back in, she would have
Yeah, probably left a bag
swapped
somewhere.
something, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say that anything like that could be construed as circumstantial.
Yeah, true.
Because
Okay.
technically, if she landed back, she could still have not left anything. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that.
Okay,
That's good to know.
So also,
How did you know you were going to say that?
I didn't. No. I clearly like a reaction to me just tell me stuff. That's good to know.
I was going to say there, so all the evidence in the case is only DNA collected from the scene and fibres that were in her lungs. There was no weapon ever found
That's crazy.
to suggest a blunt force trauma, which was kind of the first step in the murder.
Does John's DNA match the DNA found?
No,
Like, everything else is perfect. I think it was just the phone. But why are these both so good?
Yeah, I don't know, but
Like, we've definitely gotten worse.
in what sense?
I think we're going to have to listen to a myth further on. Because if you hadn't said the phone, I guess the phone is a big detail, but, like, if you hadn't said it, I would have gotten myth. Whereas, for sure, like, murders we've written midway through the year, or myths we've written, sorry, we've gotten much faster that they were myths.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe, maybe like near the start we were like, we have
Time
to make
and
this
energy,
work.
yeah, like, putting a lot into it.
still working through the story, Louise. At the time,
It's a little bit rude.
You tend to ask like questions, and I'll literally be like, I'm coming to that in 2 seconds. So that's why I'm just like, let me, because I'll also get flustered and be like, this is so obviously a myth now.
Okay.
If you're asking it, so I'm just like, let me talk.
I'm just trying to engage your
Yeah,
conversation.
I know, it's like the whole premise of the podcast is you need to ask questions and figure it out. And I'm like, no thanks, not right now.
Not a good time for me. Yeah, I feel like also at the start we probably had to get them right, because if we never managed to like get away with a myth or murder, then like I feel like the podcast would have like failed pretty quickly.
Yeah, we would have.
So there probably was more pressure at the
Been
start
very-
to try and get right good murders and myths.
Mm-hmm.
no. Let's just stick to
Right.
the schedule.
Just trying to engage in the
You need to
conversation.
jump in ahead, like.
It's like deja vu.
That's crazy.
We have to work through it. Okay, yeah. And the fact that the main suspect passed a lie detector, that's another contribution.
Yeah.
Okay. The fibres were found out to be polyester, which was everywhere at the time, and it matched to many items in John's house, however, unfortunately would have matched to fibres found in most houses at the time. So the case is now only circumstantial evidence, and DNA would...
How did you know polyester was everywhere at the time?
I literally looked up like 1980s, like what was the main fabric type. Like, you
Okay.
know, like these are factually correct for the time, but then I couldn't even look up to see if telephones were around. I for sure looked it up and it was like, there were some.
There were telephones, yeah, I
Yeah.
get you.
cannot be fully processed against the samples taken from John due to lack of advancements at the time. So they could do like DNA testing for like fingerprints and stuff, but not like kind of like raw DNA or
Yeah.
like samples. There wasn't enough to link John to the murder concretely, and he was set free from police custody, despite all involved, any witnesses and anyone familiar with the case believing it was John. So the case goes cold for 8 years, and now we jump over to England. In 1986, in England, the first DNA used to try and convict a murderer is used, and it sets off a chain of cold cases being solved around the world. Based off DNA collected and kept in Stephanie's case, the murder was finally solved and the case was brought to a close in 1989. So this advancement in England was able to match up more complex DNA profiles. So the DNA in this case matched 98% to John Campbell.
Okay.
So he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for
What?
No,
sorry.
I'm just listening to
sexual
you.
assault and murder of Stephanie Orwell. The murder is finally solved and he maintains it wasn't him and refuses to confess to the murder. The polygraph testing has since been rejected as a means of proof for or against someone
Is that
in
true?
criminal cases
Yeah.
due to its unreliability.
That makes sense.
With notable serial killers
Yeah.
such as the Green River Killer and Ted Bundy being known to have been able to pass the test.
Okay, yeah.
They
So
can-
it's like
They
you
can
can't
use it as a
anything.
coercion
Yeah.
for a confession, but they can't use it as evidence.
Okay, interesting.
I is like very subjective.
Yeah.
Versus the,
Because it measures your like heart rate, your blood pressure, you know, certain things
I sound really like far away or croaky or something. Do you notice that?
I'm
that you
not
can
listening.
regulate
That,
if you
yeah.
or if you even truly believe you didn't do it. So basically he had gone free for so long based off the merits of the polygraph test and lack of DNA advancements, but kind of just as both were coming to an end, so thankfully he did get convicted and was sentenced to life in prison.
Okay.
So that is the story of Stephanie Orwell.
That's the story. The story of Stephanie.
Yeah.
That's the
So
story of Stephanie.
giddy.
When are you not?
My guess is that it's a myth, but I could be going off some incorrect
Okay.
reasoning.
Go on.
So I think in 1980, and I could be totally wrong,
Yeah.
that it wouldn't be like
I don't know how to phrase this.
particularly like you wouldn't be particularly vocal about going off with somebody like after on the way home from a nightclub. Like
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
obviously it happened, but I feel like it was done a little bit more in secret.
Okay.
Like people were very like what's the word? Like people were very
Conservative.
judgmental about it.
Yeah, okay.
Very conservative. I'm also slightly unsure about how many people had mobile phones in 1980. Would it have been super common?
Yeah.
I feel like it was primarily landlines.
See, do you know what I done
And
here
then,
was I planned everything to the time frame. So polygraphs were leaving in like 1980,
Yeah.
and like phones were just coming in. So had I done anything and like said, oh well, like guess you didn't know when polygraphs are like actually not used anymore, I could have bumped it up to the 90s, and you know,
But
like I
if
was trying to
she-
get everything correct.
If she didn't have a phone, it would have made the story much more believable as
Yeah.
well, I think. Because, like, her phone would have been a means to contact someone if she was in danger. But, like,
Yeah.
I feel like without that... Like, she didn't really use the phone at any point, did she?
No, I just said like the contents of her handbag listed out stuff.
So, if she hadn't had that, that would have,
That was
I think, added to
ridiculous.
the believability of the story.
more recent than that, like I feel like pagers came in, and then mobile phones came in like for
Right.
everyone.
Okay.
Also, a really good fact about 1986, the way that DNA testing improved,
Yeah.
and I feel like that was like a really good detail that you researched.
Okay.
Maybe didn't like come up in the thing,
Yeah.
but I do also feel like it could be a murder. Like it was.
That's kind of true. I feel like it wouldn't mention that in a news article, would it? I guess it could. That, like, this is one of the many cases that were finally solved. I guess
like,
it
solved
could.
after the
Yeah,
fact. Yeah,
it
I
could.
guess. I don't know.
You wouldn't know.
If it's a myth, it was really well written. Like the thing about the fibers in the lungs, that was like, oh, that kind of sounds like a murder.
Yeah. Okay. I get you.
But I'm gonna guess myth.
Okay. You're right.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. And I'm actually kicking myself because I was right.
Yeah, I know you're gonna go on and explain the same thing that you just did
The
there.
phone, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had it in the first place. I don't know, it was maybe more pertinent to the story at some point.
Earlier in the time, yeah. Possibly. It was a very good story, though.
Yeah,
I love
I'm
that
surprised.
detail.
I thought it was way worse.
Yeah.
But I guess it was just that one.
I
stupid
thought in
mistake.
perspective we would see a lot more plot holes, but obviously not.
Yeah,
They're both the exact same as we would have originally,
yeah.
as we would have done now
Probably,
today.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Lots of details. Less descriptive language.
Maybe we should just do the next year, all listening back to the first year.
Yeah, and then the 30 years just commenting on our comments.
Yeah. And
Never
then...
ending. It's a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was unnecessary. This has been fun. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe.
On this week's episode, it was still a myth.
Listen on all streaming. Find us on all streaming platforms. Can't get that right.
Join us next week for another thrilling adventure.
Remember, it's myth until proven murder. Slay.